Everyone wants to have the easiest time possible in Chaos Manifestation, but what characters are going to benefit you for easy runs and what characters are just going to be harder to build and almost need to be carried? Today we're going to be rating characters through solo god carry all the way down to needs carried themselves. Everything from damage to survivability, card generation, AP generation is factored in here, but the most important thing that determines a character slot on this list is how consistent they are at performing their role inside of Chaos Manifestation. If a character has a ton of fantastic epiphanies for them to choose that allows them to still fulfill their role, defeat that boss, and complete the Chaos run, that's going to greatly benefit them at being rated higher on the list. However, if a character needs to put together several different specific epiphanies to fulfill their role and get their full build together to really make them a unique and powerful character, well, it's going to be a lot harder for you to do that consistently, and maybe even potentially you need to carry that unit with some of the other more consistent options. The easiest thing for you to do is support the channel by checking out the link in the description below. You're going to get a free legendary champion as well as up to $200 worth of free goodies. And don't forget up to 3 awesome epics as you level up inside of Raid. And be sure to use the code Desert Queen to get access to your new free legendary champion in the form of Tahana Rock. As always, this helps the channel out so much, guys, so be sure to check that description down in the link below and join me in Raid today. What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We're tackling this today. We're going to pop off right here. And let's start off with none other than the most hyped man of all time when CZN was released. Now, Hugo is pretty awesome. I do like this character when it comes to Chaos Manifestation runs. He does very nice damage consistently. He doesn't have a lot of epiphanies that are just bad. He's got a little bit of card draw in there as well. His damage floor is pretty high. His ceiling isn't as high as other characters are, but this is Chaos Manifestation. So for those things collectively together, he's not in the solo Gary God potential tier. There's only going to be a couple of characters up there who can literally solo carry. But with Hugo in your team, you can build a team around him as a main DPS, use him as more of a supportive DPS options in an aggressive team as well, and just benefit from his kit pretty consistently. So he's going to make your runs a little bit easier there. Someone else that we need to talk about here is going to be Mika. Mika is one of those characters where if you find yourselves, maybe you just started playing the game or you're just trying to do stuff with other characters, if you're falling behind on healing, maybe you need a big boost for you can make it through those runs safely, then Mika's going to make your runs a little bit easier as well. She's not going to be like solo carry god. Mika's in my team. I can't lose with anyone that I've ever brought. She's also not going to make it so easy that you can kind of turn your brain off and bring a bunch of like mid or bad or needs carry characters. She's just kind of there. You can kind of put her in the fine tier, but she does have a little bit of AP generation for you as well. She doesn't have a ton of terrible epiphanies, but the ability for you to generate a source of water every once in a while and her wave mechanic and the epiphanies you can get for that make her pretty decent. And she's one of the highest throughput healers as far as how much healing that she does just for existing and the multipliers on her healing cards, that she will give you a pretty much easier time inside of a Chaos Manifestation run. However, if you're piecing together some hyper aggressive team, she might actually be kind of down in the fine category for you. Maybe you can fulfill the healing role in a more aggressive strategy on any of the controller archetypes because of the controller support that kind of heals you at the end of the battle. You don't really care if you get chipped down a couple of times in the super aggressive teams because, well, that healer support has that healing at the end of the battle and also has that 2 EP skill to heal for you as well. So if you need a ton of healing for what you're running through, look at something like Mika. If you don't need a absolute crap ton of healing, then we'll touch on some of the other characters that can kind of provide that role that Mika provides as a healer, but also speeds up your runs with card draw, additional support, tutoring on top of the healing, and something like that for sure. You can put her in either one of these. A character like Ray was really slept on and put like down in the needs carry role early on. Listen, Ray, if you build her as like a sub DPS, give a little crit chance, a little bit of damage, a little bit of attack, you actually put some damage DPS equipment on her, she does a lot of great things. She has the ability to draw cards, right, and exhaust cards out of your deck, which during a Chaos Manifestation run is pretty nice because your deck's going to have cards that you don't necessarily want to see all the time. You don't want to run into that card during the battle over and over and over. A lot of these are basic cards, right? Even sometimes status ailment cards and curse cards. She can use the food snack time card to not just draw and heal, but get rid of those cards for you for the remainder of that battle. On top of that, she's got a lot of ways to boost up not just void damage, but 0 cost cards, 1 cost cards, her own cards. On top of that, can do damage in heal. She's got morale damage bonuses. She does a lot of things, and I find her very, very valuable. And when I started playing with her a long time ago on more aggressive oriented teams and giving her the support partner that heals, I think it's Owen, right? At the end of the battle, she just does enough healing that it doesn't really matter. And she just is crazy good as a support sub DPS healing control character. I love this character. Now, someone who gets a pretty bad rap outside of Chaos a lot of the times, but inside Chaos, we love them dearly, is going to be my girl Barl here. So Barl, listen, when we're talking about save data and doing busted combos and stuff, Barl outside of there isn't my favorite person, but inside of Chaos, you can just kind of have her sit there. She's going to give you some card draw every once in a while. She's going to be fine. She's going to do some damage on her own. She's not going to be, for me, like as crazy good as some of the other options, because there's some other more powerful, consistent options you could put in that slot. I do think that she is right up there with Mika, between either making it slightly easier for you or just kind of like whatever based on what your team you're going in with. She's not going to like solo hyper carry or anything, but you're not going to like mind her being on your team. You're going to do some good damage with her. You're going to draw some cards every once in a while, and she's just going to kind of fulfill that role there. The real reason that we're putting her down in the fine category instead of like the easy category is a lot of people probably expect me to put the one, the only Veronica up in solo god carry. Listen, I love Veronica. She's insane. She's one of the best characters that you can take into any sort of chaos manifestation run because of her crazy card draw and her awesome support DPS damage. You could throw her up here technically if you wanted to just do like a super tank down Veronica only against the world mode. But the two characters that we're going to put up in solo god carry cannot belong in the same class as that character. So Veronica is just going to be pretty much kind of like Barl, just a little bit more consistent card draw, because Veronica's card draw doesn't exhaust. Her ballistas do a ton of great damage. She's a fantastic support role right there to do DPS and do a bunch of card draw for you. I just think she's just like a slightly better, like a way better version of Barl, and Barl's not bad. Fine is great. It's not bad. It's great. Moving on. Maybe you'll hate this one too, but someone else who I'm gonna put into the fine category is well, the man, the myth, the legend himself, the epitome of an okay character, I think, is gonna be Luke. Now, Luke doesn't do anything crazy special, right? He's not got any sort of super awesome synergies inside of a chaos manifestation run, but he's also not going to get in the way of a lot of the stuff that you want to do. He's not like crazy inconsistent in the epiphanies you can gain for him, and he's not going to be like breaking the game, right, if you get the right epiphanies for him. He is like the definition of like, I'm going to make this man my main DPS. I'm going to throw in like maybe some shielding, maybe some healing, maybe some card draw, whatever it is, and we're going to be okay. Luke's going to get the job done for me there, and Luke, I think, is right there. I think he's fine. I think he's awesome for that reason, and someone who's going to share his slot in the fine category for me, and I've done a lot with this character, is going to be Mlin. I know a lot of you people might be like, Mlin deserves solo god carry potential, and yeah, you can, right? But this is like aiming for the most consistent stuff, regardless of who you're partnering with. If you're looking for someone to help you carry anyone else in the game, Mlin has a couple of things that kind of fault her on that, which you have those runs, you've seen them, you've played Mlin, right? Nothing's worse than like getting the passion epiphanies, and all of them that show up, none of them have a fire weakness implementing on them anymore, right? You're just like, oh, I'll take the 20% shield at the start of my turn. Great, right? There's nothing worse than getting the wrong passion buff. There's nothing worse than you not getting the move, right? Which really hurts her solo god carry potential. If you don't get the move to hand strikes, her potential for just solo carrying goes through the floor. If you don't have her like a passion team, she's not paired with Veronica, or you just don't get the kick that does an extra hit for every passion card you've played. If you miss all three of those, you're just kind of like with a fine character. She's okay. She's not awful. She's not AP, you know, intrusive, right? Even if we don't get any of those epiphanies, but she's not like broken. So she's just kind of like an okay character on average. She's not going to hold you down. Some runs you're going to have, you know, the bad runs, you're like, I kind of want to quit this run. And some runs you're going to be like, wow, this is the best character of all time, right? So I think I'll put her right in the fine category for those reasons. Just a little bit of inconsistency issues there. Now, speaking of passion characters, there's someone that I actually like quite a bit in the form of Selena. Now, Selena is very similar to someone like Hugo in the form that like Selena has the ability to put mark on a bunch of enemies and sort of mimic that follow-up attack mechanic that Hugo does have. Outside of that, though, that's not really what Selena automatically does. So if you get the wrong epiphanies on her, sometimes you'll be left with like a mix of like, sometimes I do passion weakness, sometimes I want to reset tenacity break, sometimes I do tenacity break damage, sometimes I'm, you know, giving shields to the team, sometimes I'm following every attack up you do with a follow-up attack, and sometimes I'm AoE marking. So I think she's in general just kind of like a fine character. She's definitely not on the same tier as Hugo or Veronica. I don't think she'll hold you back. In general, if you're just to throw her into a team, you'll probably be okay with her. Doesn't make the fight harder, doesn't make the run harder. And if you have some of the other characters who can kind of like help her out synergy wise, which we're about to get into, with resetting tenacity and benefiting off of that and all of those broken mechanics, then you're going to have like a super easy time with her in your party. And of course, we're touching on none other than Serenio. So Serenio, I'm going to put in the solo god carry of chaos manifestation. This is because she does legitimately everything that you would want from a character that you can depend on them carrying through chaos manifestation. So a lot of her base cards, she has almost no bad cards in her deck list. They're all great. All the epiphanies for the most part are top tier. You can mix and match them. You'll do amazing things with them. And a lot of this has to do, and credit is due to, the fact that her card selection and her own mechanics of giving herself her buff on the pulse lasers and all this other stuff is insane because it's breaking tenacity gauge. So she's also a character that has a lot of AP generation throughout all of the chaos manifestation fights. One of the biggest things that Mika does, right? Oh man, I got wave. Oh, I can generate AP with source of water. Serenio is just going to do that for you because that's what the developers designed her to do. They designed her to at least give you like 1 AP per turn by tenacity breaking at least one things. And a lot of the time it's going to be even more than that. And that's just the baseline of what she's doing there. So she's super consistent. She's usable everywhere because of her buff. She can tenacity break everything and then grant bonus damage off of that. And on top of that, we are keeping this at like E0, and she's even at E0 like a solo god carry. Her E2, if you have that, if you want to spend some codex, whatever the thing is, the item that allows you to imprint anybody, name's escaping me right now, it's Omega code, right? If you want to spend that with 2 of those or whatever on a Serenio E2, you can kind of legitimately turn your brain off because you're gaining extra cards at the start of your turn. You're gaining the 2 homing lasers, which is free damage. They return back to your hand. And she just has so much good stuff going for her. Very low cost, generates AP, does a ton of damage, can be used anywhere. Fantastic DPS character, and she is going to be in that solo god carry because nothing else comes even close to something like a character like that can do even at E0. Now, another character that I actually like a fair amount because of how versatile that they are is actually Renoa. And that's because she is pretty consistent in what she wants to do, right? She wants to generate bullets. She wants to have some payoffs for generating bullets and do damage that way. Renoa is consistent because she has quite a few epiphanies in cards as well that can either generate bullets for you in multiple different ways. And she has a couple of different payoff applications for generating those bullets. She's not looking for just one single card in the deck as a bullet payoff. She's got a couple of them. She's not looking for one single way in the deck to generate bullets. She's got a couple of them. And she also has the ability to draw some cards for you as well. And her EP skill is also a payoff for her own mechanics. So there's not a lot of times where you're gonna be running Renoa and your team be like, wow, dude, all the epiphanies I got, just none of them work well together. And my character, you know, lost everything like my Mlin did. So I actually like Renoa a lot. I think she's pretty easy to run through Chaos Manifestation. And if you're looking for someone to help you out DPS wise, and you don't have the other options, or you don't have anyone up in the solo god carry potential, look at Renoa. She's pretty cool for those reasons. Now, someone else who is near and dear to my heart, but well, is going to be the first hard for me, is actually going to be Kron. Now, Kron is going to be like, you might even put him in the needs carry thing sometimes because of how inconsistent he can be in unlocking epiphanies. Number one for me. So Kron needs to generate futilities and then get the futilities out of his hand in some way, shape, or form, and then spend off payoff card based on how many futilities are like in his hand or in the graveyard, or you've used this turn or whatever you have. And the futilities don't do anything on their own. They cost one and do nothing unless you get specific epiphanies to make them heal and do damage when you cast them, or other things like that. So he's very epiphany dependent. And I think he's actually probably, if not hard, in one of the like needs carry through some different Chaos Manifestations. I think he's borderline because he does have some good cards. It's just the hit or miss, the RNG of if you get the right combination of epiphanies sometimes can make him feel a little lacking for me. And it's just like, it's not so bad that he's not doing anything at all, but it's also like he's not super consistent in his job at dealing damage, right, and taking things out. He's just very AP hungry if you get the wrong ones. So I'm gonna have to put him down in like hard. You could put him down in like needs carry. I'm gonna put him down there in case someone skips to the end and didn't even listen to the conversation that you and I are having right now, and they have nothing to say but negativity. I don't know, moving on. Someone else here that's gonna go down here in the needs carry or hard is actually going to be Lucas. Now, Lucas is the outlier. I've thought about Lucas a lot because like Lucas like necessarily isn't like the worst character of all time, right? And Lucas, you could technically say like doesn't even belong anywhere on this tier list because he's like this support, like DPS, like buffer type character, right? Someone you think of like Ray or whatever, like, oh, I damage buff certain things and I do damage and I have this other stuff. But he's just like a super niche support character where he's like, yes, are bullets involved? Count me in. And you're like, cool, man. He doesn't need a carry. He doesn't make the battle harder if you're pairing him up with like the one thing he's supposed to be paired with. However, if you're just like slamming Lucas into your team, you're like, I'm going to go Lucas and some other random things that have nothing to do with Lucas's kit. He doesn't really need to be there. So we're going to put him like down to the needs carry thing, even though he's just like doesn't really need to exist in a lot of your Chaos Manifestation runs, because you could probably just replace him with like any other support DPS character or support healer character and be just as fine, if not better. So we're gonna have to slam him right there. Another hit or miss character for me is gonna be Yuki, very similar to Kron, and kind of like the antithesis of what you want is like she kind of needs to have the time to build up her deck and get the right epiphany so she can do that self-sufficient thing, which is something that you really kind of, don't have the opportunity to do in like every chaos run. So it's not that she's like awful and she generates one cost cards that do nothing like Kron does. It's just that she needs that time to be built up. She needs to have certain epiphanies that work well with each other for the game plan for the team that you're taking in. And she doesn't always mesh well with everyone else, right, that you might be wanting to take her with. And she's far away from like high carry potential. That's what we're really basing this tier list off of. And she doesn't really have that right out of the gate. So I think it makes it a little bit harder if you're trying to use her as your carry character running through Chaos Manifestation. So we're going to slam her right there. Someone that you would think would probably be down here, and maybe you could argue that they should be down here, is Nia. Nia gets a lot of flack for like, oh, she's not Mika, she doesn't heal a ton, she doesn't do all this other stuff. But if you play into the more aggressive strategies with Nia in your team, if you have your potentials kind of filled out, you have the ability to buff up your team's damage with rhythm boost, you stay a little bit proactive on your healing with Nia, which is just cast like one of her base cards that gives you elasticity every once in a while, and you put the partner card that heals you at the end of the battle. You're able to generate a fair amount of EP with Nia with the right sort of a memory fragment setup, which is what she wants to be built for anyway. And so you can also use the partner's 2 EP skill to heal. So you kind of only need to spend like maybe 1 AP every other battle to maintain like full health with Nia. And then, you know, any bad cards or whatever at this point in time, you just kind of like remove from the deck so they don't show up, which is kind of fine. She is a character that's not like giga busted. She is one of those characters where like, oh, the best version of Nia is you get all the right epiphanies. But she isn't gonna like necessarily hold you back like crazy because of your ability to just make her be your healer. That's 1 AP, heal a little bit, damage boost. Yeah, she's got some garbage epiphanies, but she can kind of still fulfill her main role. And I think she's actually kind of fine for that reason. So I've used Nia a fair amount, and people always tell me that I can't beat them. Like I can't use Nia. I'm not sure why. I think it might be because you need to do that proactive thing, build her up with a little bit more ego skill point gain in her stats. And just if you're finding yourself taking damage, dude, use the partner that heals you at the end of the battle. It's not hard to get through Chaos Manifestation on a controller with that character, especially one that can build up a fair amount of EP every battle to just use that partner's heal, because that's like an extra 300, 400 healing per fight, doing those 3 things each time. You're totally fine doing it that way. Calipe as well should either be in the easy or the fine role, I would assume. I'm a more proactive player. I don't like to, you know, wait for the enemies to hit me to do stuff, right? I don't typically use a lot of shielder characters in the Chaos Manifestation stuff, because at the end of the day, if I have a good hand, the enemy dies. If I have a bad hand and the enemy hits me one time, then the next time I go, I can probably finish the enemy off and heal up whatever they damaged me for. And with that sort of playstyle, like, where does shielding come in? Shielding comes in on the, I have a bad hand and I can't defeat the enemy a lot, put up enough pressure so I can also shield it that turn and then defeat them the turn afterwards. I don't think that makes her bad by any means. She's not really my playstyle. You could, you know, argue that it makes it easier for you to have her up in there. I think she's quite nice for that reason. But I'm personally going to put her in the fine category. If you're in sort of a more, you know, slower method of clearing a Chaos Manifestation, she's going to be fine. If you're in a faster method of clearing Chaos Manifestation with some aggressive playstyles and patterns, she's also just going to be fine, right? She's never going to be like, the reason that you're using in clearing Chaos Manifestation is slowly and solely based on the back of someone like Calipe. So I think she's, you know, borderline easy fine. I'm gonna put her fine for me. Now this character right here, I'm gonna get hated on so much for playing with her. Orla, I'll put it this way. Orla broke my not get mind broken in a Chaos Manifestation run. I didn't get stressed out in a single Chaos Manifestation run since Serenio was released until last night when I was using Orla again. So her problem is she just likes to spend AP to not really do anything that turn. And then she wants time to generate creations and do stuff. Like, you generate so much extra stress, you take so much unnecessary damage compared to a lot of the other teams that you can use without Orla in them. And dude, I think Orla is fun. I'm gonna run her through there. I'm making a super stall out Orla meme deck for the tower. It's gonna be awesome. I'm gonna power through it. I like this character a lot, but man, have my runs not been like infinitely harder with this character in my party. I like almost hard carry potential levels sometimes. And I have a great Orla build and she's fully invested in. And so like, I'm gonna have to put her like, dude, borderline hard / needs carry. I don't wanna overact, so I'll put her in hard because she can still be that controller. But oh my goodness. Now, speaking of a different controller, Narja's come out, and Narja is also just the kind of character that you want, right? That we're talking about for Chaos Manifestation. All of her cards, base cards, are awesome. All of her epiphanies are great. She's flexible. She's always going to do the thing that you want her to do, whether it's going to be healing or boosting damage between her stacks or just her mealtime card. She's awesome. She can do basically everything but draw you cards. She can be your damage dealer. She can be your healer. She's a fantastic character, and she can flex into a lot of different strategies as well. And I'm going to put Narja in like solo god carry potential up there with Serenio, because she's just that consistent of a character. She is just consistency and fulfills multiple roles at the same time. She's amazing. That's really all you can say about her. If you have Narja, You can probably put any two characters together with her and make it through Chaos Manifestation, as long as you know, don't have your brain completely off. But yeah, she definitely deserves like the solo god carry potential up there. Now, speaking of someone that Narja just got buffed up with, and we talked about how cool they are together, is Haru. And Haru suffers a lot from being a character who just wants to spam like a 2-cost consistently, especially if you're at E0, right? She just wants to spam that anchor, right? So the main thing and my main dig against Haru is, unlike a lot of the other characters where it's like, oh yes, we have cards that work well and synergize together and they do cool things when we use them together. Haru's a character that wants you to like get all of those cards and then use them in a specific sequence, in a specific order, inside of a game mode where you don't have the most agency over all of your decisions because you're actively putting decks together for everybody. So in my opinion, like, I think Haru, you know, if you take a look at it at the end of the day, like, is a little bit harder to get through compared to some of the other DPS focused characters in CZN. And so I'm going to put her up in the hard tier or down in the hard tier. I don't know, as well as Orla and Yuki for right now for those reasons. Now, Tresa is someone else who a lot of the times is like hit or miss in a lot of the players' eyes, because they're like, oh, dude, Tresa Shadow Reload. I don't know what else she does outside of Shadow Reload combo. If I don't get Shadow Reload combo in Chaos Manifestation, I die. Oh, the main bad thing about Tresa in Chaos Manifestation is her ego skill is absolute garbage. 5 EP for like 2 agony or whatever it is, and 2 shadow daggers is trash. So like the EP skill itself is pretty awful. That being said though, if you take a look at her AP spent to damage that she gains from just like base shadow dagger and her shadow dagger generating thing and the advanced shadow dagger from normal shadow reload, and the ability for that to have, you know, retrieve on it. So you heal a little bit with shadow reload, the base version, generate the advanced shadow dagger, cast that again. Later on another turn, the advanced shadow dagger having a retrieve is actually pretty nice because it allows you to spread out how you want to spend your AP, so you can consistently have some sort of like damage and tempo. You don't have like dead draws anymore. You guys have had those before. You're like, oh, well, I drew all of my support cards and I can only spend AP on support cards. I do no damage. That guy's at 5 HP. He hit me for 400 damage. I'm sad. Tresa gets around a lot of that. She also does have the ability to do damage with agony in a lot of ways, which helps out significantly. She also has access to curse, and she also has access to the ability to debuff the opponents as well, which can help mitigate damage on bosses. So overall, I think Tresa, you know, is a very nice character if you want to use her as like your support DPS or your main DPS character, and pair up with some other people who can generate AP and, you know, draw cards so she can just put out damage. She's a very fine character to use with anyone else. I think she makes it a little bit easier in some circumstances due to all of the different things that she does, and her AP to damage efficiency and consistency is really what you're aiming for here. So you won't really ever be let down by the different epiphanies that you'll gain access to from Tresa. And as long as you don't try to force a particular playstyle, you'll be able to do some pretty cool things with her. And then she also has the upside of like, you know, you can also just get the random shadow reload, copy it all combo and do some cool stuff, but we don't really need that there. It's just all about the consistency. So I think she's going to make your runs a little bit easier as a DPS character if you're looking for a straight damage dealer in some circumstances due to her additional utility. Now, some characters who don't like have any utility and just kind of like don't really do a whole lot. We're not going to talk about Owen too much. Like, he likes to add extra hits, do some stuff, retrieve his wind spear thing. That's all cool. That's all fine. That's all dandy. He's okay. It's just like, even if he is like a slight, maybe like slightly more consistent than like, oh, I'm putting together my Yuki deck. Like halfway through, when your Yuki has like 2 god awful epiphanies, still better than Luke, right? A lot of the time. So, you know, Luke's going to stay down there. I'm going to put him in the needs carry. This is more like the doesn't really need to exist. Lucas and Owen down here, and as well as Amir. We'll put Amir into this Chaos Manifestation mode as well. I'm gonna put her down in the needs carry thing. Listen, I know, right? Defense scaling damage dealer. Well, we can do damage with metallization stacks. Works really well with Narja. Oh my god, dude. She belongs up in here because she gets paired with Narja. Listen, if you're only bringing Amir because you're bringing Nardra, and Nardra can bring any 2 characters in the entire game and it doesn't really matter who you bring, I think the needs carry role is probably where we're going to put that girl, right? So we're going to throw her right down there as well. One other character that a lot of people don't seem to like that much inside of Chaos Manifestation is Casius. And I think it's a lot of because players like look at what's the most powerful thing Casius can do. It's all the Casius 000 combo thing. And so, you know, they see the guys on YouTube, they see the Reddit posts, they whatever in the community, and they go, all right, I'm going to go force myself to make this deck. But they don't really learn how Casius plays, what his mechanics are, like what quests exist outside of 000, like what the strengths of the character are. And he does a couple of amazing things for you inside of a Chaos Manifestation role. So he's a controller, so he can heal you for free at the end of the battle. We like that already because we don't really care about what other partner we're putting on him, in my opinion, for Chaos Manifestation. But the other thing, though, is not only do you get that free healing, he's excellent at giving you value. Whether you're drawing cards with devil dice or you're just getting some sort of reward from whatever random quest you get. It doesn't have to be 000, right? You can do full house and draw cards every time you cycle through his and, you know, a couple of your other characters in your party's cards. Proc full house, you can get free morale buffs from his own potential or the quest reward as well. You can get free damage and healing from 111 quest reward. You have Joker, which is just, hey, find the best card in my deck, or if you're E1, find the best card in my deck or in my graveyard. Absolutely fantastic card. You have a bad hand with Shuffle. Cool, dude, shuffle it back up. Give me a different hand. Let's keep the fun and party times rolling. And I think that in conjunction with his EP skill, which only costs 4 EP and gives your opponent so much negative morale that they definitely just don't do any damage to you on their following turn. It is a get out of jail card. Really is his EP skill, especially if you're adding him together with, I used to do it all the time with like Tresa, where you weaken it and then you give him negative morale, and all of a sudden that attack that was gonna hit you for 2,500 damage hit you for like, I don't know, 150, and you're like, thanks, dude. And you just easy get out of jail card control, card draw, card selection, consistency out the butt, a little bit of free damage as well. I like Casius a ton. I think he makes a lot of your battles easier for sure if you learn how he works mechanically. Now, another character that I think also might make your battles a little bit easier as well is actually Chisuru. Chisuru can fulfill that sort of like, I need some extra AP with her cost reduction, her binding initiation card. The main downside of that initiation binding card, her upgrade, is that, well, you can't really generate AP, right? Outside of like breaking tenacity gauges. There's no like AP generation through cards anymore, but this is a Chaos Manifestation run. So we're not, thinking about, oh man, well, Chisuru, the binding card, it doesn't allow me to use my 19 Divine Epiphanies that all have +1 AP on it. Oh no, what a downside. Not a downside in Chaos Manifestation. So she's pretty good. She's pretty decent. Got a little bit of, side healing, pretty self-sufficient a lot of the time too, like in comparison to someone like Yuki. If you took Yuki, made him just about as self-sufficient, added some, cool things that you did with generating AP or reducing costs so you can empty your hand every turn, pretty nice. I like Chisuru a lot for that reason, and I think you'll have like a fair easier time if you try her out and you play with her correctly in your Chaos Manifestation runs. Now, the other Sword Girl character up here, Rin. Rin is someone who is at least pretty hard to get through Chaos Manifestation a lot of times, especially at E0, which is what we're talking about here for all of these characters, unless we talked about some potential things that make them even a little bit better. But at E0, right, you're in Chaos Manifestation. Every character comes with cards that are attack cards. So you're going to fall out, right, of your form. You're going to lose damage, and you just have to ask yourself, like, oh man, is it harder that I'm trying to use Rin as my damage dealer in comparison to like some of these other more consistent characters who don't have to follow this little gimmick all the time inside of a, I don't know, roguelike game mode, right? So I think Rin is pretty hard to run through there. Halfway through your run, right, you could argue like, okay, she needs carry down like Kron, but like halfway through your run, you can be card removing some of the attack cards from some of your other supports, right? You could argue it's hard. You could argue it's a neat carry potential. It's one of the two. But a lot of the times, if you've been running Rin through, that you're focusing on like removing the attack cards from your other supports and stuff, making sure you don't run her with any other characters who spam attack cards, right? So the characters you can run her with are a little bit different. inside of manifestation runs. If you want to argue that means she needs carried versus it's just a little bit harder, that's up to you. But I think once you get like through the halfway point of your manifestation run, it's a lot easier to keep her gimmick going. And she just is pretty AP efficient at that point in time. And so she's pretty decent in the partners that she works pretty well with, as far as like wanting to remove attack cards and pairing them with Rin are up in the easy category. So it's not like it's super difficult to get her through. It is just a little bit harder than normal. Now, someone else who I'm going to get yelled at for is going to be this girl, one of my favorite characters in the whole game. I'm going to summarize it like this. If you're in Chaos Manifestation and you have two choices, defeat the enemy and don't get hit versus let the enemy hit you and then hit them back, the first one is better. And so I'm gonna put her in the hard category, specifically because all of these like slower counter characters, I need to take damage, I'm gonna counter attack back. If half your kit is like that, half your epiphanies are like that, you're just at the end of the day opening up RNG. It might be ever so slightly more, it might be a little bit more on some days, but open up RNG to, oh no, I got hit extra times because that's what my character wants, and I broke my stress at the wrong time and all my cards disappeared, and then I lost the run, right? So I'm gonna have to put that down in the a little bit harder category. I don't want to put it in fine because it's an entire playstyle shift where it's like, hey, if I'm not using Magna, I probably didn't get hit 4 extra times, you know, and stress broke myself and my run ended early because I got really unlucky. You know, because it happened 3 times in a row, and on the final boss, I had an extra 20 stress, and it defeated me because I got RNG'd out. You would have saved all that stress probably using a more aggressive strategy, right? Instead of someone like Magna. And speaking of which, dude, if Magna's down in hard, dude, Maribel, gonna go right onto the needs carry potential. The only defensive, like, shielder character that is above hard for me is gonna be Calipe, just because her own Silverwing Divine sort of gimmick is allowing her to be kind of aggressive. She also has some card draw as well that helps her out in that regard. But this is going to be it. If you've been looking at some Chaos Manifestation help, Soul of God carries, like these two up here, you can pair them with literally anyone. The top tier easy, these are going to have some nice synergies and help you get through manifestation a lot quicker. You let me know what you think about it down below. I'm sorry if I took a dumpster on your main in manifestation mode. Maybe they're a lot better in the other tier list though. I don't know. You're gonna have to tell me. Check out the description down below. It helps me out a ton. And I'll catch you guys in the next one.